I remember like going with my mum to do shopping.
The earliest memory I've got is when we lived in Kentish Town. My mum used to take
my parents actually met at that church.
My daughter was little. We used to go to Wet and Wild just for entertainment.
Go Saturday morning pictures.
I went to primary school just off Holloway Road.
I don't ever remember going to pictures with Mum and Dad.
All kinds of exotic reptiles and
primary
things.
school's not there anymore.
Not your average pet shop.
My name's Stephen Dickers and I'm the Library and Archives Manager at the Bishopsgate Institute in London. Oral history is, I think, one of the methods where you can find out about what happened in the past. And it really involves going out and talking to people about their lives, their memories of what times gone by were like, recording those memories and using those as a historical resource which you can learn from. We have several collections here of oral history. We have the archives, which is the papers, and lots of oral history recordings.
It could be somebody's life story, it could be the history of working somewhere. Just imagine perhaps your parents' or your grandparents' life stories, the history of work, of leisure, or perhaps moving from one place to the next, and so on.
Just ordinary people? Definitely. If I could tell you a tale, I can tell you now.
If I should start telling you my life story, it will take a long time.
Well, oral history is important for a number of reasons. First of all, because we make history. Regular people make history. We don't tend to see that in the textbooks when we read them. We hear the stories of the kings and the queens and people in positions of power. But actually, by listening to ordinary people's stories, we've realized that we make history every day. Choices like, what am I going to study, where I'm going to live, and that kind of things, really make up history.
And it enables us not only to find out about how ordinary people lived, but enables those ordinary people to feel that their history is important as well. I think it's always fascinating to hear what people have to say.
I used to be an ex-professional footballer back home. I went to the army to play football for the army, and I decided to come here in the 70s.
I think oral history is really important because it gives you a personal history.
It gives an opportunity to hear lots of different voices that you wouldn't normally hear about.
I just think it's important for the ordinary person to have a voice, and to me that's the most real kind of history.
It makes people see that actually their lives are as valuable and interesting and important as the kind of people who get featured in glossy magazines.
Doing oral history is very easy, which is one of the most wonderful things about it. All you really need is some device that you can record voices on, just a simple tape recorder or an MP3 player. When you're starting an oral history project, it's good to know, in a way, what you're trying to capture at that time. A lot of oral history projects will just talk to people about their lives in general, but you find it's always quite nice to have a slight focus about what you want to find out. For example, you might look at someone's childhood, find out about how they grew up, what it was like when they were kids, what did they wear, how was school, what was their favourite lesson, what games did they play. I think it's always good to have a sort of focus about what you want to ask.
It is essential that you get permission from your interviewees to put their stories in the public domain. So don't forget to go out there with a consent form.
The Born and Bred project is a oral history and photography project, and we're interviewing and photographing 40 people who live on Holloway Road or work or study, and they've been born and bred in London. And so far we've been interviewing and photographing the participants in the project. We've been doing that with a large team of volunteers.
It was great, and I felt very sort of comfortable and just answering questions, and the main reason I wanted to do this interview is because there may be something in what I say that might inspire somebody else.
The Born and Bred project will produce a book, an exhibition and a website.
The best way to display it would be in an interactive context. Could you put it on the web, for example, on YouTube? If you were doing a video oral history of your grandmother, for example, you could then allow people to make comments. It could go viral.
I always find a wonderful way to do it is an exhibition, so people can come and listen to headphones and listen to little clips from the oral history. But the most important thing I would always say is rather than putting them away in the drawer, make sure they go somewhere where they can be shared, because these are wonderful resources that people will learn from. So once you've done your project and you've recorded the people and you've used it for whatever you want to use it for, give it to an archive and they'll put it in a lovely box and store it forever. My 3 tips for oral history would be try and keep quiet as much as possible. Now it's very hard for someone who has a very big mouth like me.
Oh, hi. Hi. Yeah, so what's your name?
My name is Tony Evans Tyler, and I was born in 1939, well, the Second World War.
Fascinating. So yeah, you were talking about your life?
Yes. So, as I was saying, I was born around the Second World War, and are you falling asleep?
Oh, sorry. Carry on.
So, as I was saying, I was born during the Second World War, and
bear with. Hello?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of an interview.
Bye. Carry on.
Never put your agendas onto it. You might want to know about something, but never push a person in a certain direction.
In those times, my father was bombed by a German plane.
You must have felt so traumatised after that, your father being killed by the Germans.
Actually, after a while, I got used to it.
Oh, I'm sorry, do you want one?
No, just listen to me.
And thirdly is never turn the tape recorder off when you're recording until the last minute, because when that person goes and you go to turn the tape off, that's when they say the absolute gold piece. So always keep the tape running.
Doing a good interview means that you have to be very patient, you have to be interested in somebody.
I think if I had any advice to anyone doing oral history, it would be to relax, because the more relaxed you are, the more relaxed your interviewee will be. And the more, if they're relaxed, that means that they're happy, and they're probably more likely to tell you their story.
Oh, hi. Hi. Lovely to meet you. Hi. My name is Bob Smith, and I'll just be speaking to you for about 45 minutes and see about your life history.
Okay.
So today is the 25th of June, 2012. We're in Islington, London. So, what's your full name and date of birth?
I'm Eloise Fielden, and my date of birth is the 21st of March 1953.
Okay, so thanks for coming. I think it'll be really interesting. So let's start off with, what about your grandparents? What life did they lead?
My mother's parents grew up in South Africa. It was very racist at the time. My whole family was so against it that we just decided to move to England.
So where were you born?
Oh, in Cape Town.
South Africa?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I found it quite difficult. It was a very different lifestyle. I grew up on a farm and then coming to a big city and everything was busy, and it was quite sort of a very different atmosphere.
So thank you so much for coming. It was a great pleasure talking to you. Thanks.
Thank you.
So one of the most wonderful things about oral history is that anyone can do it. Go out and record people who've got the tales to tell and make sure they get saved, because years to come they're wonderfully important resources.
But the most important thing, don't waste any time, because as you might know, the history of your communities, your street, your grandparents, they're not going to be there forever, so please go out there and do it.